Hi, welcome. This is Sarah. Today we are going to talk about um, in the news, talking to children about violence and trauma. And this is a workshop that I put together with my colleague, Melissa. And I also wanted to just make a quick note, if you've been to other workshops of mine, this is the first one I've done. I have a new last name. My email is still the same. My phone number is still the same. And I'm still Sarah. And as usual, at the very beginning, I have a hard time going to the next slide. Bear with me for just a second. There we go. Just a little bit about, we are a child care resource and referral agency. We provide free services for families, including referrals to childcare programs. We can connect families with other resources in your community. We can help give you information about how to find a childcare and what to look for in a quality childcare, as well as how to access financial help paying for childcare, and then free workshops such as the one that I'm recording today. This is just a map of our service delivery area. We are SDA 2, which is the lighter blue color. And all three of us are family engagement specialists, and we are here to support families. This session is being recorded. There is nobody on attending live, so I'm just gonna skip forward. So welcome. Today we're going to learn tips for talking with children about violence and trauma, as well as identifying trauma and some ways to help children move through traumatic experiences. So the reason we created this particular workshop is due to a lot of violence that has been in the news lately. Not only the recent school shooting, but mass shootings throughout the country. There's just a lot going on when the news is on. And as parents, sometimes we're not sure how to talk to our children about what's happening in the news. Especially when it involves a school. And how much information should children be exposed to? And how can we make sure that they still feel safe with all that's happening in our world? So the first step is to find out what your child knows about the event. Even if you haven't talked to your child about it, chances are they may have heard something at school or at childcare. Or older children that are on social media, they may know something very different from what the reality is. So find out what they know. And make sure that your child feels like they can talk about sad or scary events. And not only can they talk about it, but it's okay to feel sad or scared or angry. And share your own feelings with them. We feel sad and scared and angry sometimes when we learn about what's happening in our country and in our world. I have quotes from Mr. Rogers in here quite a bit. He was such an amazing inspiration for helping children to feel loved and connected and safe and part of a community. He says, if we don't let children know it's okay to feel sad and scared, they may think something is wrong with them when they do feel that way. Encourage questions, both now and in the future when things come up. And this doctor writes, like adults, children are better able to cope with a crisis if they feel they understand it. And the best way for children to understand what's happening is for us to talk to them about it. Children need reassurance that there are many people that are working to help keep them safe. Many children, especially in light of the school shooting, may have questions about, why did this happen? Am I safe at school? And it really helps to talk with children about the people that do work every day to keep them safe. And sharing information, be honest, but be mindful of your child's age. So I have just a few notes here for early elementary school, and then upper elementary and early middle school. That's from the National Association of School Psychologists. And I would say for it before elementary school, the most important thing is to find out what your child knows and what they have been exposed to. And that will help inform you how to talk with them about it. So for example, early elementary school children, it would be best for the information to be brief and simple and balanced with reassurances that their school and homes are safe and that adults are there to protect them. Upper elementary and middle school children will probably, they're more likely to be vocal and asking questions, and may want to be part of the solution, things that maybe they can do to help, and more examples of school and community leaders' efforts to provide safety. And it's okay to admit that you don't have all the answers. Another Mr. Rogers quote that I really love: if the answer is, I don't know, then the simplest reply might be something like, I'm sad about the news and I'm worried, but I love you and I'm here to care for you. And be patient. If your child doesn't want to talk about it, that's okay. Let your child know that they can come back and talk to you when they're ready. And then just be aware of signs of maybe some depression or anxiety over time. And that would be a great time to loop in maybe a school counselor or a mental health consultant. And then a few other helpful tips. Sometimes the best thing is to just turn off the news. One thing to consider is that media images can add to the trauma of a tragedy. When we think about when we've got a news station on, the same images are being shown over and over again, and to especially young children, that can be confusing and cause them to possibly think that the event is happening over and over again. And also the live coverage and closeness of the TV can impact young children's sense of safety. And so sometimes if your child does see these images, talking with them about where those images are from, and that your child is far away from where that news happened. And look for kid-friendly sources of information. Some great options. PBS has news for kids, as well as Scholastic. There's a resource that I have at the end of this presentation that has links to additional news sources that are kid-friendly. Encourage your child to express their feelings and ideas through familiar activities, as well as keeping up your routine. Normalcy helps every child to feel safe. And play and make believe. And sometimes children that aren't ready to talk about a traumatic event or something they were exposed to on the news, reenacting scenarios such as helping someone at a hospital rather than reenacting the tragedy can be beneficial. Talk about people who are helping. This is a pretty common Mr. Rogers quote, the look for the helpers. But that can help balance a child's fear of the news event with the adults and the people in the community that are helping, and ask the child on ideas to help, especially older children. This could be fundraising, collecting donations, being pen pals or making cards, or something closer to home through a community project, or even writing a letter to an elected official. This slide is straight from our conscious discipline. If you've been to my conscious discipline workshops, we know that the most important thing for an upset child is a calm adult. And us being calm can then help children process and become calm and get close. That's straight from conscious discipline as well. Children need that connection, especially if they're feeling upset. This would be a great time for I love you rituals, or even just a hug, or doing something like reading a book together. And then shifting gears just a little bit into child trauma or adverse childhood experiences. We know that they can have long-term negative effects on a child's health and well-being, as well. I mean, brain development is significantly impacted by childhood trauma and adverse childhood experiences. But recognizing and understanding and caring for your child can really help. So a traumatic event is defined as a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that poses a threat to a child's life or bodily integrity. That includes witnessing a traumatic event. And sometimes witnessing something traumatic on the news, it's not going to have the long-term effects as experiencing a traumatic event, but it's still something to address with children. These are some examples of things that can be traumatic experiences. I will note community violence is included. So, for example, children that are part of a community that may have had a mass shooting or a school shooting would definitely be considered a traumatic experience, if just being a part of that community. And signs of trauma. There's a pretty long list here. I won't read them all. I would say that when we're looking at signs or red flags of anything, if you're seeing one of these items, it might not necessarily be a sign of trauma. But what you want to consider is when you see a pattern, when you see several of these, for example, poor concentration. How many young children have poor concentration? And it might not be related to anything that they've experienced or witnessed. But when you see a pattern of several of these occurring with your child, that's time to take notice and help them heal. So tips for supporting children through trauma. These are very similar to the ones that I previously shared about violence in the news. So really making sure that your child feels safe. Safety is, if you remember back from the conscious discipline workshops I've done, safety is the number one thing that children need to feel. Acknowledging their feelings, remaining calm. Once again, that's similar to conscious discipline. Those routines and fun play activities, talking with your child, and not just talking, but listening, learning what they think and what they know, calming exercises, If you need some ideas for calming exercises, I've got a couple workshops posted with some breathing and active calming techniques for children. Understanding that every child is different and every child copes in different ways. Um, and similar to what I shared earlier, making sure your child feels like they can come to you with questions, and also share your feelings. They're not alone in this. Um, if your child admits to a concern or a worry, don't necessarily respond with, "Oh, don't be worried," because he may feel embarrassed and may not come to you the next time they're feeling something. Um, one thing you can do is just confirm what you're hearing. So yes, I can see that you are worried. Um, we talked about sharing information with families, listening to children. It's really important to understand how your child views the situation, and what is confusing or troubling to him or her. That because that will help you know how to respond. And then it's understanding that children cope in different ways. Some children, and of my three children, I've got varied responses to difficult things. Some might want to spend extra time with friends and relatives. Some might want to spend more time alone. We just need to make sure that we let our children know that it's okay to feel anger or sadness, um, and it's okay to cope and the ways that feels the healthiest to them. Here I have some additional resources, and I'm going to email this to those that registered for this workshop. And feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague, Melissa, if you have any questions or if you would like additional information. You can call or text the number listed, as well as email either one of us. Thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a good rest of your day.